episode of the House of Words podcast. We are your hosts. This is Nicole, and I am joined this week again with Armani.
What's up, guys?
And Dexter.
What's going on, everybody?
And this week, once again, we're back to shoot the shit about Paint Sundays Black, all of the black things that people watch pretty much on Sundays, including a great Friday show. Well, I don't even know if it's great anymore, but we'll get into that. Before we jump into it, are you guys watching anything that does not fall into what we're talking about and or sleepers? Just anything that you guys have been watching, anything new, interesting, good out there in the world to share with the peoples?
There's always something to watch. Always something to watch, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's like only a million damn paid channels at this point. Like there's a million different streaming services, so options are out there and plentiful. So anything new, anything that anyone stumbled upon? Dexter, anything you stumbled upon that you want to share?
I watched Raised by Wolves, the first episode. It's a Ridley Scott directed episode. It's interesting. I don't even know how to explain it without spoiling it. Do I spoil it?
You can. I mean, that's what we do.
I know, but I don't want to spoil it. Like, I don't want to tell people what I'm watching, just spoil that. We're not even talking about it. Like, I will say this. Raised by Wolves is a show about extinction of the planet and them having an ark. It involves an ark, and it involves androids being sent by atheists to a planet that is destitute, that doesn't have anything on it. They raise human children, and check it out. I don't want to ruin it, but it's a very interesting first episode. It seems like an entire movie. Didn't you see it, Nick?
Yeah, I did. Is it something that you're going to continue to watch? Ooh, that took a minute. I wasn't very confident, yes.
Is it something that I am going to continue to watch? I'm probably going to check out that second episode. However, it's something about the show that says that I'm not going to watch it anymore after that.
That sounds fair. Armani, are you watching anything new this week, Armani? Anything that you've stumbled upon?
No, I haven't been able to watch anything this week, really.
Okay, that's fair. Are you playing anything?
No.
Okay, you live in that adult working life.
Yeah, pretty much.
Got it. I watched American Murder Next Door. It was, I've seen people talking about it, and I've seen people saying, oh, it's like the worst thing I've ever watched. It's really not that bad. I mean, as far as crime, like shows and things that have happened in real life go, it was typical white guy kills his family. I mean, I was expecting some weird, dark, sinister plot twist, and there was none. So honestly, I was left quite disappointed. That's on Netflix. So it's not really worth watching.
What was it called again?
American Murder.
Oh, I feel like I heard about that.
Yeah.
It was one of those famous cases.
I don't even know why. Like, honestly, I hate to say it. And at the end of it, they say that like every day in America, 3 women are killed. And it's typically by their spouse and or significant other. So it's really like a dime a dozen. I mean, we've heard so many cases where some dude kills his wife and his kids and like hides the body. So, I mean, there's not really anything that I don't even know why they decided to make this into a Netflix documentary. Like, there's legitimately nothing that screams, let's make a documentary about this. Nothing, just overwhelming. So I kind of feel like it was wasting my time. And that's sad to say. I mean, not that people's murder should be entertainment, but if you're going to make a documentary out of it,
gotta have some interesting facts.
Yeah, like make it be something different, something worthwhile. Still making my way through Ghost of Tsushima as far as playing things. It's a slower burn for me than I thought it would be. So there's that. And we started Ratchet this week, the Netflix series Ratchet. So that we will talk about on a separate podcast because it is worth speaking on, but we're just not going to do it here because ain't that much melanin in that show. There's no melanin in that show now that I think about it.
No, there's melanin in that show.
Where? Who?
The Service.
Oh, The Service. All right. Well, it is a good show. So if you haven't started it, then definitely check it out. It's worth watching. And then we will talk about it. We're going to break it up. Even though all the episodes are out, we're going to break it up into a couple different podcasts. So it's, we can chat about it and it's consumable. But all right, let's jump into our Sunday show or, our weekly Sunday show. So let's start with Lovecraft Country. This is episode
7.
Episode 7 of 10, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because there's 3 more episodes left. it starts off, it's the Hippolyta heavy episode that we've kind of been waiting for. And it starts off with her having that key thing that she's had for a while that Elizabeth is looking for. And she's trying to figure out what the hell it does and what it's, supposed to do. And eventually she gets it to work. And it gives her a key.
Where did she originally get that?
It was inside it was inside George's bookstore.
Okay.
That's where he had it the entire time. And Elizabeth thinks it was in that house that Letitia bought. Is where she thinks it is. But it's been in George's bookstore. She gets it and it takes her to a location that she usually, she says she's going to go to. And at the same time, Tick and Letitia are like, well, we want to go somewhere too because we want this piece of the puzzle. Can we borrow the truck, your van? And she's like, fuck y'all. No.
They had the nerve to ask her that while she's pulling out the driveway.
Exactly. The audacity of these Negroes.
Yo, we need the car. Like, could you imagine telling your mom, I need the car.
Right now.
And she's pulling out the driveway already.
We're like, if y'all don't get y'all asses away from me. That's literally, I loved it because that was the look on her face. Like, if y'all don't get from around here, kicked them to the curb and told them you can take the bus wherever you got to go. And she went on about her business. And it took her to essentially the time machine that everyone's been looking for. And I loved this scene because we've heard about, in an earlier episode, Hippolyta was talking to, when she took Diana, and they all went to the astronomy place or the planetarium, when they went to the planetarium. And she was telling her how she had won that science thing and she got to name a star. But because they didn't want to publish that a black girl named it, they put in the paper that the white girl named it when she was in school. So we've heard about how smart she is and her love for science. And then we get to see it in this episode when she was doing the math equations, trying to figure out the planetary alignments and how this stuff should work. And I thought that was pretty awesome to get to see her shine on her own. She is doing all of this and these two white cops roll up on her or roll up in there because the thing is like making noise and doing whatever it does. Now, kind of on the other side of things before we progress there. So Tick finds out that him and Letitia were talking and they realize they're having the same dreams about his ancestor running out of that house while it's burning down.
Oh, yeah.
And their dreams, while not exactly the same, are kind of crossing paths, like they're overlapping each other. And in Letitia's dream, she sees herself running out of there and she's pregnant. So we're getting possible foreshadowing that Letty might end up pregnant by Tick. Not really surprising. Cool. But she sees her carrying a book. And I could have sworn I thought in Tick's dream she was carrying the book as well.
I thought that's how Tick got out the house.
It is. She let him out the house.
Okay, so
she had let him out the house. She's seeing it in the dream. And that's when they're like, okay, well, she had this book. So maybe the book of names is still out there. And we need to figure this out and see if anyone else on your mom's side has this book possibly passed down. Where is it? He finds out that his mom has a cousin that is still alive or has survived the Tulsa riots. So we get another real historical event that's mentioned in the show. The Tulsa burning down of Black Wall Street is mentioned. So his family was there for that, and that's where his people came from, or were his mom's people anyway. So that's where he was going. He was going out there to try to get in touch with the cousin to see if he could find this book. And he gets out there, finds out the cousin's no longer alive, but he finds some people that she lived with or were close with, and she's asking them like, hey, have you seen this book? And she was like, I remember her talking about going on about some book or whatever. But so he's looking for the book. How the hell did he make it to Hippolyta so fast? Because when shit starts going off for her, he pops up like super quick. So I was just like,
He ran. Yeah, I was a little confused too. I'm gonna look into that because I'm not 100% sure. I thought about it as well, and I don't understand. Like, he was just asking for the car, right?
Yes. Great. He took the bus wherever he went. But like you said, so he's on foot. Like how did he get to her so quickly was just interesting and seemed like a drop in continuity, but okay. Actually, one thing that happened earlier in this episode was Tick and Letitia going to his dad's and they see him there with Sammy.
Oh yeah. That totally skipped out of my mind.
I didn't skip him. I was just letting you go.
That was interesting, and it was an interesting scene because you have his dad and Sammy were arguing because the neighbor had seen Sammy, and of course his dad's is in the closet.
Yeah, it was a whole back and forth. It was interesting how he was acting. You know, what I experienced him. What did he say to him? He said, every time we get close, you make a point to let me know that you don't care about me. Yeah. And he was going in on him off of every single thing. Like, we had to watch the scene for 25 seconds, and he had been going in on him. I think he might have said 4 or 5 things to him.
Yeah. And it was definitely from a place of fear, because it's like, oh shit, now my neighbors see me, I'm gonna be outed, and that's really where it was coming from. So it was like trying to push Sammy away to an extent. But yeah, that was interesting. And then as Sammy's leaving, Tick and Letitia see him, and Tick called him the F word. He was like, did my mom know? And he's like, well, yeah, she knew. But he should have told him, he was like, yo, don't ever call me out my name like that again. Like, I don't give a shit. I'm your dad. You're going to respect me regardless. The fact that he had such a... You know what? When they went outside and Tick made the comments to Letitia, and he was just like, he used to beat me when I was little. And I used to think it was because he was trying to teach me something or whatever. And it was really... Now he feels like he was beating him to make sure like he didn't end up like him. Or like... And that was
because what he said was he was beating him so he wasn't soft.
Yeah. And that whole time knowing that, you know, he was gay. Not that you should equate being gay with soft, but obviously that's what Tick equated the two with. Him and his dad just don't. It's going to suck when he finds out his dad's been hiding shit from him. So if there is a season 2, I don't necessarily see his dad being in it. I feel like he might die at the end of this season.
Yeah. So I don't think it can get any better for them at this point.
Yeah.
He's going to find out that's not his dad.
Oh my. That'd be even worse.
He's not. No, didn't his uncle tell him that's not his dad?
He said he might not be.
Yeah, remember at his deathbed, I had a conversation with someone and they brought that to my attention. They said on his deathbed that that's what happened. They had a conversation, and I went back and I watched it, and it doesn't necessarily say that the uncle is the dad, because that was what the person had said to me. They were like, "Oh no, I think the uncle is the dad," and I was like, "Really?" And I went back and looked at it, and they didn't really necessarily say that. However, they did make it a point to tell you that he might not even be his kid. And then he was like, I thought we talked about this, and you better shut up. And he was like, look, you're about to be the only person in his life. So that's an interesting caveat in itself. They have all types of trauma.
I'm pretty sure that'll play a part later on in the series then. But back to Hippolyta and Black Girl Joy, that we get to see where, because then her and Tick get pulled into this time machine, and she ends up in some weird alternate dimension with black aliens.
Mm-hmm. It's like a whole different world.
Yeah. So it wasn't even really a time. Was it a time machine, or is it
like a dimension machine?
Yeah. So they ask her to name herself, and so we get to go on this Hippolyta realization journey where she's working through her stuff, and we get to see her go back and, you know, dance and hang out with Josephine Baker and live her best life in Paris. That was fun to watch. Then we get to see her as warrior Hippolyta. So these are the previews that I was seeing, and that I had said earlier that I thought was going to be some Wonder Woman reference, since Hippolyta is Wonder Woman's mom's name and her daughter's name is Diana. That didn't flesh out, so I'm sad. Like, I thought there was going to be a point to that. There wasn't. There's not. It just, okay. Coincidence, I guess. Not coincidence. I'm pretty sure, like, it was chosen for a reason, but whatever. Not the reason I was hoping for. So we get to see her being a warrior and training and, like, finding herself. And then we get to see her, you know, get to be with George one last time, and hang out and, like, be more than just his wife. Like, they went and explored together and did things. So that was nice. I liked the way that played out for her.
Wasn't when she woke up with George, wasn't that the beginning of the show? Wasn't how Lovecraft started?
Yes.
That scene with them waking up?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that was how the series started. I liked it. I wasn't mad at it. I feel like it will come into play because, like we've talked about before, all of these episodes are discovery and backstory episodes. They're all fucking origin stories for everybody. So we've gotten hers, and we see her coming out of it as a stronger person, which I'm sure will play more into whatever happens at the end. And then we're getting this culmination at the end of the day of everyone knows magic exists. Everyone knows shit is like when everyone has to come back together and have this conversation, because we get Ruby and Letitia kind of made up because Letitia didn't go with Tick. She stayed. so her and her sister could talk and go over things and make up. And then she overhears Letitia on the phone in the previews or whatever. So she knows that she now knows that Letitia knows more than she's let on. We get Hippolyta now knows all the stuff she knows. When all of these people come together in one room after this, so I'm really interested to see what the hell's going to happen next episode. Because we're going to have some conversations.
I was like, because something got to shake now at this point.
Yeah.
We're on episode 8 out of 10.
Well, Tick is still in the... Sorry, I'm going to cut you.
No, go ahead. What you about to say? He's still on what?
Tick is still on the time machine thingy. They didn't show what happened to him.
No, he came out at the end.
He came out at the end, but it didn't seem like he came back to his proper place.
Like, they didn't show his experience in there, though.
Oh, okay,
yeah.
right.
You know what I mean? They just showed what she did, and they just showed him coming back.
If we really have to sit through a whole episode of whatever the fuck he went through, I'm gonna be so irritated.
Well, we likely don't have to sit through a whole episode of what he went, because we know a little bit of his backstory. We know what his backstory is sort of the same backstory as Gia's, so they can just come back and tie those things in. They don't really have to go a whole episode, I don't think.
I really hope not, because I don't really want to see it.
Yeah, but you wanted to see you wanted to see Wonder Woman, huh?
I did. I mean, I wanted to see some Wonder Woman-esque shit. I got enough of it. I got her kicking ass and taking names. They killed a bunch of white people. Like, that was one of her things. when she was, no, I'm just saying, that was her thing. Like, when she was with Josephine Baker and she was talking about how she feels like she's been made to feel like less, and that basically somehow oppressed she's felt, and she was saying she wanted to kill white people. That's how she felt, like because that's how they've been treated, and that's what she's watched. And then she gets put into this period as a warrior where that's what they're doing. It was very cathartic, I'm assuming, for her. So she's gonna come back and not be one to take nobody's shit and hear no lies no more, for sure.
Respect.
Any thoughts on how are y'all feeling about Lovecraft at this point? What are y'all looking for? Forward to, Armani? I'm
looking forward to a reason or for some kind of plot now. Like, where are we going? Because I just feel like, again, there's not enough time left. There's not enough episodes left to really give us a full fleshed out story that's not gonna just be a cliffhanger at the end. I feel like they're either gonna leave us on a cliffhanger or unsatisfied.
Dexter, what are you feeling?
I agree. I think that it's one of those things where if you are expecting everything to close out, you are sadly mistaken, because they haven't shown you any evidence of that. So what I think is likely going to happen is they're going to just give us more story. I don't know. I don't even know how it works these days, because nowadays on HBO, at least, they will give you a season and not give you anything after that. So I'm hoping that if they don't close it out, they at least get a chance to continue it. If it ends like this and it doesn't have anything else, I would be shocked if it didn't close, if it closed out right. I would be shocked if it closed out correctly.
I guess we will find out in 3 more episodes. So moving on, next up on the docket is Fargo. So
Hey.
Fargo season 4 just started. So Dexter, you want to talk about Fargo season 4?
Yeah, we'll talk about Fargo. Season 4 is different than the other 3 seasons. This is a show on FX. It's been away for 3 years. Now it's back with the lead of Chris Rock. The previous seasons were all pretty much in Minnesota and the surrounding areas of like North Dakota, South Dakota, North Dakota, which is where Fargo is. This one is a little bit different. They had some rumblings with the Kansas City mob in a few of the previous seasons. However, this is about the Kansas City mob. It's set in Kansas City in 1950. I'll just get right to it. Basically, it's about Chris Rock coming from Jim Crow South. Everybody leaves and comes to this area to kind of get a new start. And when the story starts, it's basically the Jewish mob. I think it's the Moskowitz Syndicate. They are running Kansas City. Then you have the Irish, who they do a deal with. You explained it to me best. You said essentially they switch kids to provide trust. Was that what you said?
Yeah, the different heads of the different families, they to be able to learn about each other and to establish like, okay, no one's going to do anything crazy. They initially started where they were switching off their youngest born, your youngest kids. So like the Jewish family sent their youngest kid to live with the Irish's youngest kid. It was the Irish. It was the Jewish and the Irish at first.
Yeah, and then the Irish, the Milligans, they betrayed the Jewish syndicate, and then once they were in power, the Italians came, the Fadas, and they did the same thing to the Milligans. And now you fast forward to Chris Rock swapping his only son with the Italian family who has multiple sons. One of them who ends up being the underboss, another one who is currently in Italy until something happens to their dad. It's interesting how, the switching of the sons worked, because they use the sons in both double crosses in two different ways. Like one of them, they used the son and they went back and they used him to double cross. But then the other one they took the oldest kid instead of the youngest kid. So that oldest kid came back with a vendetta and they wiped out everybody. Very interesting plot in the way that they have each other's kids. So now you have the Italian family raising a black child while you have black family raising this Italian son, and it seems like the raising of the Italian son is completely mismatched from the raising of the black kid.
I don't think it's surprising at all.
Nah, but however, they do make a point to let you know that Italians are not seen as just white people to everyone else. They still have a certain prejudice that they deal with in that time period as well. They're not welcome in Kansas City either.
I think an interesting historical note here in speaking about that, besides black people being persecuted and killed in mass amounts, there was in New Orleans a event that happened that involved a lynching of a whole bunch of Italians. They broke into a jail and they fucking drug out all the Italians and they murdered them. So which is always interesting, because this country is founded on the whole, send us, you're tired, you're broken, you're hungry, as far as happily we welcome immigrants. But all the immigrants that have come over here have been freaking persecuted in some way. And then it's like they want to hate on other minorities and other immigrants. It's like, they don't want you here just as much as they don't want us here. And Chris Rock, there was a part where they were in the park talking, and he mentions that. He's like, oh, they don't like you neither. You're not too far off from us.
Entitlement is entitlement. And that's what you notice about these type of things. The youngest son, or the son, is so entitled that he's the live wire. You know what I mean? Like before the other brother came, you had the younger one just acting ridiculous and just speaking, and he was like, they don't respect you, and the dad was like, I don't think you respect them. You know what I mean? And it's like, he didn't want them to do business at all. He didn't want them to even be seen as equals. It's crazy, it's crazy. It's interesting though how that works out. That's pretty much the gist of that part of the show. There's also another portion of the show with the young lady Pearl.
Okay.
No, her name is I think it's like Etherita Pearl. She is a biracial little girl. She's not a little girl. She's a teen. She's probably about 15 or so. Very smart young woman. She has the very interesting life of dealing with having a white dad and a black mom in 1950. And she deals with all the racism. And it's interesting to see dad kind of assimilate and accept all of the things that come with that day and age. I don't know how much we've ever seen that particular dynamic on TV.
It's interesting because both of her parents are really smart. Her mom, and they run a funeral home. She mentions that her dad caters to the white people while her mom preaches to the colored people when they come in there, and they do funerals and service and things like that. And Ethelrita is black presenting. So when you see her, you just think she's a black girl. And she's very smart, and she's going to this school where paddling is okay to whoop somebody's child's ass, and she's not even doing anything bad. It's just because she is so smart and she doesn't play stupid for nobody, so she keeps ending up getting in trouble.
Lessons.
Yes. when she goes home. I thought it was interesting when she asked her dad, should I go around back? Like when she shows up at home and there's these white people there, so they're doing a service for, a white family. And she's like, should I go around back? And he's like, no, just go to the kitchen or whatever. And this is where Ethelrita meets crazy Orita Mayflower.
The third part of the show. My goodness.
Yes. The other dynamic. Orita is a nurse who is from, she's our like tie-in at this point to that region.
You're right. Yeah, she's a nurse from that area. I believe she did say she's from Fargo.
So her first encounter with Ethelrita, she's treating Ethelrita very much like, oh, you're just another Negro. And then her dad, who enters stage right, has no point saying, oh yeah, this is my daughter. And she's like, oh, okay, I see it now. Interesting. And then she goes into this whole thing about how the, melanin and things like that tend to be the dominating traits or whatever. So it makes sense. She's like, your mom must be really dark. And it was just like, holy shit. So immediately we find out she does not bite her tongue. She has no motherfucking filter. And she's just going to say whatever. And that's her first, thing with Ethelrita. And then we see her in the hospital. So she's a nurse in the hospital. And
she meets with Justo.
Yes.
Jason Schwartzman. What a character. He's the brother that I was talking about from the Fada family. Is it Fada?
Yes, the Fadas.
The Fada family.
Ends up in the hospital and
she kills him.
Spoiler alert. It dies. So yeah, she straight up kills the Italian dude's dad. Like when he ends up shot and he ends up in the hospital and she goes, okay, I think it was awesome that they went to that one hospital and they were like, we don't treat your kind here. You need to go to the other hospital that treats colored people. And they're like, what the fuck? Right. We have money, treat our dad. And he's like, no, we don't treat your kind. This is a private hospital. Take y'all Italian asses over there where they treat the other immigrants and folk. And they're like, oh, we're coming back here. Don't worry. So they end up in the hospital. She kills him. He just off the bat was asking her for drugs. And she's like, okay, cool. Let's go do some drugs in the back office. And she gives him the drugs he's asking for. So that's like pretty like not good because he's already batshit crazy. So now he's batshit crazy and we know he has a drug problem.
Interesting show. It's only 2 episodes so far. It premiered last week, but they released 2 episodes, I believe, at the same time. So we kind of did a synopsis of both episodes just now. So catch up, y'all.
And Fargo comes on Sundays at 10 on FX. So you can catch it. It's Monday. It's available on Hulu.
Oh.
Yes, because it comes on Sunday night, so it's available the next day on Hulu.
Oh, well, good. Because I don't need another thing to watch on Sunday.
So definitely check out Fargo. I definitely say it's worth watching. And you don't need to have watched any of the previous seasons to just jump in here. That is also worth noting because it's a good, I think this is a good season to kind of just jump in on if you don't really want to go through having to binge watch or just watch the previous ones. Next up on the docket after Fargo, we are discussing The Boys. Man, I have so many mixed feelings about The Boys. We get more Homelander and fucking Stormfront being it together, and after the revelation that she, is a crazy Nazi and not just someone from the 60s in the South who's racist. She's racist. Like she's Nazi racist. And now she's trying to get Homelander, who's already batshit crazy, to join her front. And he's like, okay. So we get more of them making out and killing people together. We get to see Starlight get her ass beat by Black Noir and get captured, which was interesting. He was not very nice. He was pulling no punches. And it's crazy because it's like clearly Black Noir is like the henchman. Like, just go do this. And doesn't ask questions, doesn't need a reason. Like, you just send him in and he's going to get the job done by any means necessary. So he beats shit out of Starlight and then they put her in this facility. Fortunately, she can't get out because there's no like electricity for her to draw her powers from. Hugh had got injured pretty bad when he was outside with Billy the Butcher. So they had to, take him and get him fixed up and what have you. He ends up having to babysit Lamplighter, who, interestingly enough, turns out to be Shawn Ashmore, who previously froze things. So he went from freezing things in X-Men to burning shit up on The Boys. We learn a little bit about Lamplighter's backstory, of where he came from, his connection, and his connection to them. So we see that he was previously a Voight like employee, so he knows how to get in and out of things, and he abandoned them or whatever. We get a little bit of his backstory, very short backstory, because he didn't last long anyway. Because once Hugh finds out that what's her face Starlight has been kidnapped, they go in there to break her ass out, which is successful. But in order to do so, he sets off the fire alarm. And he sets off the fire alarms with setting himself on fire. All right, we're going to pause here. Because it's like he couldn't light up the rest of the room. Like, he couldn't just set other shit on fire. Why did he burn himself? He committed suicide. Like, he committed suicide and set his entire body on fucking fire to set off the fire alarm. Because he knew that would activate shit probably in the room where she was at. And that's what happened. It activated more lights, so she was able to get some powers and get the fuck out.
He knew he didn't have a fear.
Yeah, I guess that's what. He made himself.
He said his job was to burn things. Whatever that they failed, he just burned it. Like whatever they wanted to get rid of, he would just get rid of it.
You know what? So I would imagine that he's probably spent his life burning people, like and killing people, which is pretty shitty. So I guess he was probably just tired. So he commits suicide. And then we get the gratuitous violence and gore that the boys has become known for, because they got in there because his handprint was able to get them past the security door. In order to get the fuck out, Hugh needed said handprint again. So we sit there and we get to watch Hugh saw off his burnt, charred hand. Like, we get to really see it. I was just like, yo, we is doing the most on the boys right now. Like, the boys is doing the most when it comes to
all
shit.
extremes, yeah. But they started out with extremes.
That's true. You're right. From the gate, A-Train running over old girl
running through old girl at the beginning. That was it. That was like, oh, this is what we dealing with. Like, if you had no idea we're watching, they let you know right there.
Yeah.
You can turn it off now if you don't like blood. Like, because there was a lot of blood in this episode, to go with.
There was. We see Stormfront. Well, it wasn't really her idea. Homelander was telling her about his kid because she was, said she had a kid who was like 80 years ago or whatever, and she's looking all sad when she sees his baby. So Homelander takes her to meet his son, and the taking her to meet his son turns into we're going to take my kid mission, basically. So the two of them decide right then and there they're going to take this kid, and totally being dickheads and assholes to the boy's mom. And yeah, there was no they weren't being coy about it at all. It was pretty clear what their mission was there. Poor kid's mom, like, she knew what was going on, and she begged Homelander. She was like, please don't take him away from me, just he needs his mom. And for a split second I thought Homelander was gonna be like, okay, he can stay here, but I'm gonna be in his life.
No, but they turned the kid.
Yeah, come to find
out the kids start yelling at the mom. Then what?
Oh my god, Homelander's such a, but he's the Homelander we've all grown to hate. So
nothing was more heartbreaking for me. And it was almost like, Armani, when you go back and watch it, like, pay attention to her face when she takes, like, when they take the kid, they just fly up in the air. You know what I'm saying? And it's nothing. How could you feel her heart had to be? You can't do shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't do, like, 1 minute your kid's there and 1 minute kid is gone. It's like an eagle took your shit. You know what I'm saying? These niggas is gone. It was fucked up, man. That was really fucked up. And when you think about, I think the thing about the boys that makes the boys almost horror in the way that they use intimidation in the boys. You know what I'm saying? Because so far, we're this far in the show, and we still have no clue how to hurt any of these people.
Oh, well, no, we know how to hurt Black Noir. He has a peanut allergy.
Good segue. Great segue.
While Black Noir was whooping Starlight's ass for the umpteenth time, Queen Mauve comes in, and she, like, starts to take off his mask and shoves Almond Joy in his mouth. Like, she's shoving shit in his mouth, and you're like, what is that? He goes to pull an EpiPen, and she snatches it from him, and she throws it. And he's trying to get it, and she, like, kicks it away from him again, or pushes it away from him, or whatever. Then she tells Starlight, she's like, yeah, he's got a peanut allergy. It's an Almond Joy. And that, to me, was, like, the funniest shit, because he has been the most toughest, kick-ass dude, and you find out, oh, he's got a peanut allergy. Something very simple. Takes his ass out of play. That shit was hilarious. I loved that scene. It now begs the question of, there's gotta be weaknesses somewhere, and they're probably just all stupid shit like that. Minor allergies or some crazy shit. Meanwhile, A-Train is, or the Deep is convinced A-Train to join that weird church, culty church that he joined to try to get his way back into the Seven, and A-Train's like, what the fuck?
I be feeling bad for A-Train, yo. He's not a good person, but I still feel bad for him. Life is rough.
It's kind of hard because he is such an asshole, and it's just like, well, this is karma, babe. It's what you deserve. It's what you get. Yeah, I think I'm enjoying watching him and the Deep together because they're both just such lame weirdos who ended up on the outs of the Seven. They're such different people, so having to watch them try to get back together, because A-Train clearly did not like the Deep at all. He's like, oh, fuck, I gotta be nice to this weirdo. So that's funny. I am enjoying watching the two of them have to deal with each other. And I hope it actually becomes something. Like, I hope the two of them have to, like, team. At some point, someone besides Queen Maud has to make the decision to be good and do some shit. And Starlight's trying, but there's got to be a point where it's going to be a everybody else versus Homelander and Stormfront is what I feel like is coming. So that'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I don't know if I'm enjoying watching The Boys or if I'm just watching it for the sake of watching it at this point. Because I just feel like it's just, I don't know how I feel about it.
I think it's one of those things where, I said this before, this show is unique in the sense of it's not traditional TV. It doesn't feel like traditional TV because of, I think, how gory it is. So it's weird because it has its own identifier that says I'm an Amazon Prime show, which means that I don't expect anything out of it. I just watch it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know where it's going, but it's different than me watching Lovecraft where I care where it's going. The Boys, I just watch it because it's like watching Fear Factor. It literally is, you're like, what are we going to see next? You know what I mean? I don't really watch it to, I don't know. I don't care where it's about to go, to be honest with you, as opposed to the other show where I'm all scrutinizing. And I don't know if that's fair or not. However, The Boys doesn't really have to go anywhere. Just keep showing me this fuck shit and I'm good with it.
I'm just showing up for Mother Milk's t-shirt at this point.
His
t-shirt game is pretty good. I'm enjoying it week to week.
Well,
that's not the only reason I'm showing up, but his t-shirt game is still on point. All right, well, that's it for The Boys. That'll be back, of course, next week for more gratuitous violence and overt racism. Next up,
shit.
Power.
Power book. Ghost.
This episode was fucking pointless.
Worthless.
Truly,
60 minutes of nothing.
Oh, man, it was the most useless, laziest ass. I'm gonna go ahead and say lazy writing. I don't normally like to say that. I don't usually use that term for things, but it was like a whole episode of what the fuck and why are we here? Why do we need to see everyone making out the entire episode? Like, why does that? And they were all terribly done scenes.
I wish I could say I could attribute it to lazy writing. I feel like, how we have a problem with other episodes cramming into, like this, they decide they just want to have, what's this, episode 4? And it's just a nothing episode? Jesus.
Yeah. We're going to put the emotional ties into one episode to make you think that these people care. So all of the emotion that we're going to pull is, you get to see Method Man and his chick, and you get to see, Tariq having feelings for this, both girls, and we get to see one of Mary J. Blige's sons, who's supposed to be watching Tariq fail at his job. We're supposed to be watching him to figure out how he's moving the drugs, and he follows Tariq to one class and falls in love. And it's like, bro, really?
Wait, what you mean he fell in love?
I mean, falls in love is probably extreme, probably not in love, but I mean, he meets one piece of eye candy and ends up in his bed and totally off his task. This is why you can't, this is why you can't be in charge of the family. Like, you had one job, was to follow Tariq, you go to an art class, you meet a boy, and then you fall down on your job and have to call your sister in to pick up where you left off. And then, while you're making out with this guy you just met. So, yeah, I mean, all that we learned we didn't learn shit in this, in my opinion. Like, there's nothing.
Is there anything that we can pick up from this episode? So we had I know we can pick up from this episode.
What's that?
That the professor, she ain't got no morals whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? She nasty. I wish that they only got a couple more episodes out of me. I promise y'all I'll stop watching this one.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're not gonna get me like they got me with Power for 19 seasons.
I'm not feeling it. And honestly, as much as I love Mary J. Blige, I'm not a fan of her acting. Yeah, it's just getting perpetually worse. And the scenes just feel awkward and forced from episode to episode and scene to scene. So unless something drastic happens this next episode, I'm with you. This might be getting dumped because I'm just not interested in it at all. Terrible. This was just a really, really bad episode.
It was nothing to it. We had 2 kisses, 6 sex scenes, and like none of the sex had build up. And what I mean by build up is there was no previous like part to make you say, oh, okay, you could see that nobody was at dinner looking at each other or nothing like that. Nobody was sitting across the table. Nah, they just basically wanted to let you know that Method Man is screwing his paralegal or whatever. Let me not demean her. She might not be a paralegal, but he's screwing his co-lawyer, his co-worker. You've got the situation with you letting us know, like you said, it is lazy writing. Instead of them writing in something to tell you these things and giving you a story to tell you these things, what they're doing is they're just taking the story and giving it to you physically instead of doing it mentally. They're just like, hey, it's like gonzo porn. It just starts and that's it. And you're like, oh, like they could have showed us that he was going to be gay at some point within the first 3 episodes. They could have showed us that Method Man was seeing his coworker at some point within the 3 episodes. At least they showed us and told us, well, she's a sex addict. You know what I'm saying? So that would explain why she's had sex with him in an office, and then all of a sudden she finds him having sex in the office with someone else, and then next time she sees him in the office, she gives him some more ass. Who does that? Like, who does that? Who goes back after in the same place? You gonna do it on the same? Okay.
Yeah. I would have maybe cared a little bit more if it had been the other son that was gay. But I feel like we're just pandering and playing a stereotype. Like, you're going to make the son who seems to be, I hate to use the word softer, but the way they're presenting him, he is the weaker son. He doesn't.
He's a character. You could say it. They took the soft son and made him gay. And then they took the hard rock and he shoots guns. It's all stereotypical. However, I get art imitates life sometimes. You know what I mean? However, it would be nice to just have more complex characters.
Yeah, a little more creativity would be okay. Yeah. Just change up the dynamic a little bit. It's just so fucking predictable.
That's all.
Yeah, so it is. Yeah, that's Power Book. All right, so kind of in closing, because I think we've covered everything that we planned on covering. Sleepers.
Let's
move on to sleepers for the week. So, Armani, what's your sleeper for the week?
Selah and The Spades. It is on Amazon Prime. It stars Lovey Simone, who was Zora in Greenleaf, and she's also going to be in the remake of The Craft coming out, I believe, next year. Was it next year or 2022? Not completely sure. But it's basically about a underground crime ring operating a high school.
Okay.
Pretty interesting movie, though. You guys should check it out.
I have watched it. I watched it when it had premiered. It is good. I co-sign you're watching Selah and The Spades if you have not watched it. Dexter, what's your sleeper?
My sleeper, actually, that movie will be out in a couple weeks. It comes out October 27, 2020. The Craft Legacy.
Yikes. That's
interesting.
Yeah.
And what's it going to be on? It's not
Amazon, Hulu, Vudu. Buy it.
But yeah, I'm interested in seeing The Craft, so that's why I decided to speak on that, because I'm interested in seeing The Craft. It used to torture me when I was a kid. The Fairuza Balk chick, is that her name? Fairuza Balk or something like that. Yeah. She was like the main chick.
Yeah.
Oh man, she creeped me out, bro. She used to creep me out. Anyway, I'm sorry, it's my sleeper time, right? My sleeper is actually, I don't know if it's a sleeper to most, but The Haunting of Hill House. The reason why this is my sleeper is because they will be coming out with the sequel of The Haunting of Hill House. I believe it's The Haunting of Bly Manor. That comes out next week. It is a series. The Haunting of Hill House is a series on Netflix. It is by my man Mike Flanagan. He did Dr. Sleep, Ouija, and I think he did Oculus. If you've ever seen Gerald's Game on Netflix. But he does very interesting, scary stuff. This is a show about a family of 5 that were haunted in a house that they lived in for a short time while they were kids, but it seemed to haunt them for the rest of their life. They show it from the perspective of young kids, old kids. I mean, well, they're old, they're adults, and then it's young kids, and they kind of go back and forth to their experiences, and they do like, you know, 1 episode per person. They kind of go with the next episode for another person, the next episode for another person, the next episode, and then at the end, I think it's a really great tie-in. Nick, you seen it, right?
Yeah.
Armand, did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh, all right. Well, this is not a sleeper to y'all, but if y'all haven't seen it, listeners, I think y'all should watch it. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, especially with the next rendition or next part coming out in a week, so not a bad idea to refresh up on that for sure. All right, my sleeper for this week is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, because old Jack Nicholson might be my new thing. I think I'm probably gonna end up going back and doing more old Jack Nicholson movies. I did not really care for The Shining too much, but and then the whole reason that this came about watching this was because the character Nurse Ratched, is from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. So I was like, all right, maybe it's a good idea to watch this movie before starting the show. Ain't shit really tied in but that woman's name. There's no tie-in so far between the 2 shows. Granted, between the show and the movie. Granted, we've only watched 2 episodes, so there could be later, but I'm not expecting it at this point. I really don't care if there is. But the movie was worth watching. It's very interesting. 1975, I believe, Jack Nicholson is an asshole in this movie too. He's hilarious, and I'm realizing why he was chosen to play the Joker in Batman. He does kind of just edgy, raw humor very well, and then the comment was made that Jack Nicholson just plays an asshole in everything he's in, which when you think about it is
pretty accurate.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, it was good to just kind of revisit, especially if you want a throwback as well. I definitely would recommend checking out One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest if you have not seen it. It holds up pretty well also, so not a bad flick.
Go watch that, guys. Go watch that, so when we talk about Nurse Ratched, you'll understand what we're talking about. As a matter of fact, we can go into how many people are in that movie, I guess, when we talk about the Ratched episodes, because that's worth talking about in itself.
Yeah, that movie had the cast was full of people who definitely blew up later. So definitely a good jumping off point. Make sure you rate, subscribe to this here podcast, share the podcast, tell a friend about the podcast. Yeah, do that first. And then until next time, take care of yourselves and be good to each other.